What is going on, bros and broettes? We are in the garage, finally doing another garage talk. And what we're going to do is continue our series on buzzbait fishing. And I got something kind of sneaky for you that I think you're going to enjoy. We're going to build a bait and actually test it. And the bait that we're actually going to build, I got all these components from Tackle Warehouse, Boss stuff, Do It mold, like crimps, all these different like lure building tackle mod hack components. And we're going to build a bait that is basically not available, or there's no like comparison to it available, say on Tackle Warehouse, Monster Bass, Bass Pro. You can't find anything like it. It's a variation on a finesse buzzbait that I love throwing. You guys probably know it. It's that Accent Jacob Wheeler buzzbait. This is one of my favorite ones to throw, but it's a little bit different. It's a little more subtle, and it has some other unique components to it. I'm gonna show you exactly how to build it, what components you need, and then we're gonna go out on the water and test it. I'm gonna show you actually how it fishes. So hit that like and subscribe button for me. Let's get step one done and let's build this thing.
Oh God. Got him. That feels like a better one. Oh, that's a great big one, dude.
So let's run through the components real quick. You can get all this stuff on Tackle Warehouse. First off, this is a Boss buzzbait, basically frame. This is the 1/4 ounce, looks a little like this. If you guys make your own jigs or anything like that, you can probably make this mold, but I just buy the frame. It has an extra long hook. It's great for hookups, but it's the 1/4 ounce version, the little bit smaller version. The other thing that we got, and I already dumped them, this is my little like my bag of what I need. So I already kind of opened some of this stuff, but these are the Picasso. These are golden blades. These are the smaller finesse version buzz blades. And I'll show you how much smaller they are. So this is that Accent and this is the Picasso. So it's about, I'd say half the size, pretty tiny, right? The other thing that we're gonna need is these blades, and they're called Turbo Props by Worth. They're little, if you guys fish any of those like brim imitators, those little blade baits, like a devil's horse or something like that, it's basically that blade style that you see on the nose and the tail of those devil's horses. The other thing that you're gonna need, and this is kind of an easy one too if you guys want to toy around with this, is metal beads. It's these little tiny metal beads with a hole in them. Now, full disclosure, what I often do, you have spinnerbaits laying around, you have buzzbaits laying around, they get rusty, they sit in your tackle, and you're like, man, I didn't throw that, or I threw it and it's all beat up, but it's got all these components on it. A lot of times I'll take like a little wire cutters or a little pliers or something, and I'll actually just remove the components. So I have like a little stash of leftover components that I can actually build baits with, whether it's spinner baits, buzz baits, things along those lines. So you're not spending a bunch of money buying like little stupid beads when you have 20 of them sitting on old baits that you don't use, So I try to buy some new stuff that I need to put these things together, but I also tap into some of my old lures that are just laying around. They've been laying on the board too long, and then I'll cut them up and then I'll separate those pieces of those components, throw it in a Bass Mafia box, and I got it for later. So the first thing that we're going to do is just basically grab our little buzzbait framework right here. And like I said, that's the 1/4 ounce. I'm gonna grab one of these golden blades right here, one of these micro Picasso golden blades. But before we do all that, I'm going to slide a small bead up on the shaft of this frame. Now you're gonna have to bear with me because it's a little tricky to see stuff and do stuff, but I'll try to show you the exact process. So we're gonna slide this little ball bearing looking thing right on the tip of this deal right here, and what that's going to do is it's going to provide a stopper, and it's also going to provide metal friction to make some sound for what we're about to add. The second part we're going to take is one of the smaller turbo props, this guy right here. So it's a little turbo prop, and we're going to slide that onto the shaft right there. And as you can see, if I did not have that bead on there, this little turbo prop would actually slide down the shaft and end up somewhere down here. We don't want that to happen. So now that we got that on there, we're actually gonna take our gold Picasso blade and slide it on. It's all about doing it in a certain order so these things set up correctly on the shaft and they're not sliding down. And then it's also so they interact with each other. Like some parts I want to hit and create friction with the metal so it makes that wonderful squeaking sound. Some of them I want separated so they do their own independent spinning. So basically, as of now, we have the little ball bearing thing, the little turbo blade, and then the buzzbait prop, the Picasso gold kind of micro version. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a much larger bead. It's probably about twice the size of that first bead, if you guys can see it. And I'm going to slide that onto the shaft. Right, like I said, it's not great for camera stuff, but we'll try to show you the best we can. So you can see we have that bead. This is going to act as a slight spacer. And also all these metal parts kind of like touching against each other. You guys know, like the art of this, the buzzbait is like the bubble, the squeak, the clack, right? So all these components are going to create that kind of like sound as they interact with each other. So they're being used for sound components as well as spacer components. So then I'm going to grab this is a larger turbo prop right here. And I'll put links to all this stuff down in the description box so you guys can go check it out. And because we have that spacer, I can slide that larger turbo prop right behind there. So you guys kind of see where this is going. This is sort of a blended prop bait, buzz bait. And what's going to actually happen with this back blade right here, this back turbo prop, is from time to time, it's actually going to hit the little micro buzzbait blade. So you're going to get this like subtle clacking, but you're also going to get a different kind of bubble from the buzzbait as you're fishing it. So lastly, what I want to do is I want to put one more bead on there, and I'm going to grab it. I'm going to put one more big bead on there and slide that thing on as just a spacer before the grommet. You'll see it right there. So we have big bead, turbo prop, big bead, you have the buzzbait blade, and then a smaller turbo prop and a smaller bead. Now, one of the things with this buzzbait, I like to model things. I'm not the smartest guy with stuff, right? So I model things after other baits or other concepts that I've been successful with. The one thing that you'll notice with this accent is, don't want to lose all my pieces, but the blade is set forward to the head, right? So this blade is about, I don't know, about a 1/4 inch or so ahead of the head. And the Boss frameworks come pretty long right off the bat. So what I want to do is make sure that I still have that kind of spacing between the head, because I want this blade set somewhat forward. So the last step that I'm going to do is grab one of these grommets. They're super hard to see, I know, but it's basically like a little stopper grommet, and then slide that thing on there. You can see it right there, right behind. Now you want to leave a little bit, you'll notice on the accent, there's maybe an 1/8 inch of gap between the stopper and the blade right there. You want to leave just the slightest amount of space so there is some flexibility for these blades and these components to move. You don't want them locked in tight, because that's what's going to happen. You know, it's going to be crap because it won't spin. So you want to leave like a little bit of play in there. So I think we're about good, but still have that blade set up about, I don't know, like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch up. Let's see if we got it right there. Yeah, that's about right. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little needle nose, or you can use like a wire crimper or something like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and slide it onto the crimp, just like this. And I'm going to make sure I got my little gap in there. That's about it. And I'm going to go ahead and crimp, just like that. Now, if you're using a needle nose, don't over tighten it. This is like a finesse buzzbait frame, and what's going to happen is you're going to actually cut through the wire, and you don't want to do that. So I have a little bit of flexibility, maybe like an 1/8 of an inch spacing in there, which is perfect. Now the last step, and once again, you can use models to learn this, or you can just watch the video. What you want to do is never trust the crimp, right? You want to fold over the tab on that wire form right there, so that it's like a closed circuit, right? It provides another stopper so that all those components and that little grommet on there do not slide off. So what we're gonna do is take the needle nose and just do a slight bend over, just like that. So you see it's bent over, so you have a double stop. You have the crimp that we've crimped down, but then you also have this bent over, so there can't be any sliding or anything like that. This is the buzzbait that I put together, and you can see immediately the difference in sizing. So the blade is much smaller, the profile is pretty small. Lengthwise, it's about equivalent, but it is a much smaller signature. And what this actually does is you can really buzz this thing quick, and it has a subtle bubble. You know, if you get out there on those days, and it's awesome in the morning, right? They're crushing that top water. There's some chop on the water, you have low light, and then all of a sudden the sun comes up, you get very flat water conditions. There's very little moving, and frankly, you need something that's a little more subtle on the top. Even a micro buzz or a finesse buzz like this accent really creates a lot of disturbance, and it's almost too much for these fish. So the whole concept behind this guy is to create kind of a bubble that you can fish pretty quick. You can fish it in clear water. You can fish it in that flat kind of calm water up to maybe like a little bit of chop, but you're getting a much lower signature, much slighter, more nuanced bubble and a little bit less water displacement, but it's still fishing like a standard buzzbait. It's just a little more subtle, a little more quiet, so you can handle those more finesse conditions or those more neutral conditions when you get into them. So last step, and this is optional, but I like to do it. Basically, I always carry this little jig creating kit with me, whether it's for like creating custom skirts for jigs, you know, you have certain water conditions, just matching the hatch. It also works great for spinnerbaits and chatterbaits when you're building your own or you have a skirt tear off. So I always have like a million different skirt materials, you know, with me, Skirts Unlimited. I just carry a bunch of different colors so I can do just about whatever. You don't need to put a skirt on this jig. As we've talked about with buzzbaits, you could very easily just put a soft plastic on here and fish it as is, whether you want to put a little grub, a frog, a fluke, you know, spunk shad, whatever. But what I actually like to do is make like a transparent skirt for this thing. And what I do is I take one layer of zebra and one layer of just glitter transparent. So you have kind of a little bit of smoky additive right here. And then you have a pretty much transparent, just reflective, iridescent style skirt. And only use 2 strands. I do not use 3. Normally on jig skirts on that, I'll use 3 strands. I put my little Boss grommet right on there on my little rigging, my skirt making device. And then I pop that thing off. You drop the hook right through. And this is to actually pull the skirt through. And then you grab your skirt material. Because all I'm looking to do is to bulk it up a little bit for casting. And then also just kind of create some undulating motion if I don't want to put a soft plastic on here. Because normally actually with these small ones, I don't fish a soft plastic on them. And then you're going to draw this guy through just to about like there. And then you actually slide that grommet up. See if I can do it to show you guys. And that grommet will pinch right around the middle of the skirt, and then you push it the rest of the way through. So super simple. Now you roll that thing up, scissors, and I'm just going to clip off the tab ends of that skirt material. I'm going to actually cut this thing a lot further down than that, but for starters, I always like to do less is more. And I got an awesome, extremely transparent skirt, and I'm gonna go ahead and slide up onto the keeper. Have a nice little like keeper kind of collar right there, and then it's going to slide up right onto there. Be gentle with it though, because it takes a little bit of work to get over the plastic keepers and then the skirt collar keeper. So you're going to use a rolling motion and pop that thing right over just like that, and then you are going to have to even it out because obviously you put some pressure on it, scoot it around. The one nice part is I've told you guys a lot of times I'll use braid to kind of reinforce these skirts. When you're using those Boss O-rings, you don't need to do that. The O-rings are much stronger than that cheap, junky, I don't know, that plastic that kind of dry rots out. All right, so we got to start. Now I'm going to go ahead and just make some cuts to cut. That's looking really, really good, dude. To cut down. Now you have a couple options here. You can actually make this like a finesse jig and collar out the front skirt, or you can also, if you want to reduce some of the tail bulk, you can go under that and just make some chops to kind of thin it out a little bit, just like that. And that's actually really nice. So you have a transparent skirt basically on a very subtle kind of buzzbait. And like I said, you're not compelled to do the skirt. I like the skirt because it's easy. I don't gotta put soft plastic on it and go through that whole process. So I can run the skirt, run it naked, and it sort of hides the hook and puts a little cover over the hook without being overly loud. It's not like some big white chartreuse buzzbait. I'm going for subtlety. This is for flat water conditions, clear water conditions, things along those lines. So let's take this thing out to the water, and I'll show you how Mike's little subtle micro flat water buzzbait works.
So we came up to the river, me and Mr. Bogster. How you doing, Bog? Everybody say what's up. We're gonna test this thing out. I got it on this setup that I always throw those buzzbaits on. Just a little medium action. It's 40-pound braid. It's a Halo Rave, 7 foot, just for roll casting that. 40-pound braid. I have it on a pretty fast reel. I think it's like an 821. One thing that you're gonna find with this is, since it does have that smaller blade, you have to keep it up a little more. You got to kind of run the rod tip up, but other than that, you fish it just like a regular buzzbait. Only exception is, let me show you this real quick. So you see how it's like dead flat? We got some shade right here, some shade lines, but it's dead flat. It's about like 12:30 or so. So dead of the afternoon, not ideal topwater conditions, and especially with that flat kind of slick surface, but that's when this thing comes out. It's a very specialized little bait made specifically to not disturb that much water and be super subtle. So let's see if we can catch a few on it. Whoa, that one got it. That's a large one. Brah, I saw him right under it. That was pretty naughty. You like that one, Bob? The old micro custom hack buzz. Plucked him in the face. That's kind of the key too. You see there's like really light chop. It's the middle of the day, dude. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, high sun, bluebird skies. It's super subtle. The thing just got this little tick, tick, tick ring. It's got a real high pitched ring to it, and there's not much to it. It's super, I don't know, it's a quiet buzzbait. It has its place. It's a specialized kind of bait. But if you find the right situation, they will smoke it. Got him. He came out right of that tree and just friggin' smoked it. Get in here. So again, you guys see exactly what I'm talking about. Not a great big one, but the reality is we're fishing shade lines, no doubt, but it's dead slick. That was in about 2 foot of water, super skinny. There's no chop to mask this thing, and just keeping it subtle, but still disturbing the surface. It's that whole heavy finesse concept, dude. Oh, golly. Oh, God, there's a whole school of them. Got him. Oh, God. Got him. That feels like a better one. Oh, that's a great big one, dude. There was like 4 of them. Get in here, get in here. Oh, that was badass, bro. That was so badass. There was like 4 of them that chased it, dude, and I just kept burning it back. Dead slick. Oh, that was so freaking cool. And that's what you catch on Monkey Buzzbait. My homies, we are gonna wrap this thing up. I'm not claiming this is the perfect buzzbait by any means, but what it is something that's different. I don't think there's anything really available like this out there on the market. It's more subtle, it's smaller, and the other thing is the sound is unique. With this little blade and the props with it, what you do is you get a more subtle bubble. There's a lot more squeak, and there's a much more subtle clack than your standard like clacker baits that we talked about in the first video in the series. I like these smaller buzzbaits, especially when you have these slick water conditions or ultra clear water. You can fish it pretty fast. A couple warnings that I'll give you about it. So as you know, we put these big like BB things on it and all that. So you got to be careful with goo and grass. If you get a bunch of goo and grass wrapped around there, that blade's going to get stuck and it's going to fish funny. So you do have to be kind of diligent about that goo and that stuff that wraps around that shaft where the balls are at. So the other thing is you're going to need to sort of play with where you're at with the rod. You got to kind of keep it up a little bit. Usually what this blade does with a buzzbait is it causes lift, just like a chatterbait or a spinnerbait or anything else. Since it is a smaller blade, there's less lift. So on that initial cast, you kind of have to have your rod at a 45 to get it started. And then you kind of find it, and then you get that right bubble. It's like anything, you get kind of a rhythm, you get kind of a cadence, and you'll figure it out. But if you got slick water conditions, if you have ultra clear water conditions, or they just get their heads beat in with a buzzbait and you're looking for something different, this thing's pretty sweet, dude. The Boss has a little longer hook shank, makes for great hookups. As you saw, we caught little ones, caught big ones. It catches them all, and it actually negates the need for like a trailer hook. It's a fun little deal. Not saying it's the best one ever. It's just unique. It's fun to build them. It's easy to build them with the stuff at Tackle Warehouse, and you get a lot more confidence throwing a bait that you actually kind of built and created for a purpose, right? Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll put links to everything. So if you guys want to try building your own buzzbait, put links to it all at Tackle Warehouse. Everybody say later to Bog. He's getting tired and warm. So we're going to wrap this thing up. We'll see you back out on the water talking fishing, hanging out, or building some lures.